And how did Insatiable end up coming about?
Wait, did you guys work together on that?
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if you remember me at all, but
of course I do.
I
mean, that was like my favorite. It was like my favorite scene ever. It was like my favorite episode. The whole, yeah.
Short scene, but it was fun. It was a lot of fun though.
We had a good time. There was a lot of fake blood and
yeah, a lot of dying.
A lot of dying. Yeah.
A lot of dying.
So how do you book Insatiable?
I just I was called in to audition for it, and I remember reading the role and feeling like this doesn't happen very often. I remember reading the role and being like, oh, this is a job I could actually get, if they're open to casting someone who's not, you know, one of the top names or whatever. And it just went really well, and they had me back in. I didn't actually end up having to test for it, which was cool. They just offered it to me after my second audition, which doesn't happen a lot. So I'm not trying to say to anyone that that's how it works or that it'll ever work like that for me ever again. But I guess Lauren, the creator, just said to me that she just felt like I was the role. And, you know, thank God, I'm glad that she felt that, because I thought it too when I read it, but luckily it worked out. So it was really just an audition. It wasn't, I didn't get in from anything on the side. It was just my agents submitting me for a role that I sounded right for.
Yeah, I was gonna say, watching the show. Well, first of all, you're great on the show. I think you are a really good fit for that character. Like, you feel like that person. You know.
Thank you. Yeah.
Did you do a lot of preparation, like after you got the role? Like, what was like?
Wait, what was the role?
It's Angie. She's the mom, so she's basically a woman who got pregnant, like they never really told us the age, but high school was what it seemed like. She got pregnant in high school. She wanted to be a beauty queen, and then that all went away when she ended up with a baby at 18 years old, or however old, and then she has a drinking problem, and we see her get sober in the series. We see her fall off being sober in the series, and then we see her get sober again. But no, it's good. It actually is we see her get sober, and we see her she's a shit mom from the beginning, but you can tell her heart's in the right place. So it's this really cool sort of, in this over the top show, it's a nice storyline of seeing someone sort of struggle to do her best for her daughter, when she feels like she hasn't her whole life. So I liked the levels of the fact that she was also very funny and a mess and touching in some ways too. So I liked that part of it.
The show is interesting because it's like, you're right, there are like a lot of moments where it's like very broad, like there's this broad sense of the world, but then there's also like this like really dark humor. There's like a lot of dark stuff that happens in the show.
Yeah, I mean, capoeira, like people dying by capoeira.
Yeah, just people getting killed left and right, and then it's just like it's weird because like when I first started watching the show, I was like, oh, okay, it's like this like pageant world, it's a little different, and then all of a sudden like it gets really dark and really weird, and I'm like, man, this went a different direction than I thought it was gonna go.
Yeah, I mean, it even did when I would get the scripts, I'd be like, what? Holy shit, we're doing that? Okay, you know. In the second season, as Johnny knows, I got to get she had like fake boobs, which was super entertaining. And then it turns out they're full of cocaine because she got basically a botched job in Brazil and turns into a drug mule without her knowing it. So some real fun stuff to play.
And how's it been work for you working on the show? Like, how has that whole process been?
It was fun. It was super fun. The cast is, I mean, I'm sure, I know you weren't there a long time, but I feel like you probably got a vibe that the cast all got along pretty well. And the crew and everybody was really great. Like we all I think part of that comes from the fact that we were shooting in Atlanta. So everyone was uprooted, and staying, you know, away from their families for the most part, or, you know, our families like my husband would come visit, but he couldn't always be there. And everyone kind of was going through that stuff. So I think it made us all bond a little bit more because we didn't know anyone else in Atlanta. So it was like, if you wanted to not be by yourself every time you went out for a meal, you needed to make friends with the cast. So we all kind of like got along better, I think, because I think we would have gotten along anyway, but I just mean we bonded more probably, because we had to like hang out with each other a little bit more.